the moderator for this session, Ms. Pallavi Karan. She is currently a product owner at Phillips, and it's been lovely talking to her all of this while, getting her to on board with us and become a speaker at this event to share her insights. And she's absolutely been amazing to interact with. About her, let me give you a little bit quick brief about her before she takes off the stage and introduces the panelists for you. So Pallavi Karan here, as I mentioned, is a product owner in Phillips, and she has extensive experience in product development and management. She's an expert in digital health, connected care, and medical devices. Pallavi here has led numerous product launches and is known for her strategic planning and execution skills. She is very passionate and very innovative and loves building products that can create a lasting impact. It's wonderful to have you here, Pallavi. I look forward to the interaction that you would be having with Mithila. Go ahead, the screen's all yours.
Thanks, Kashish, for the lovely introduction, and good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's event, which is the first in the series of the month-long events that has been planned to recognize the contribution of women who are driving innovation in the space of product and are shaping the future of the product industry. And when I speak of innovation, it's my pleasure to introduce the speaker for tonight, Mithila Holla. Mithila is a visionary product leader who has been instrumental in launching multiple successful products in her career. And she has experience in multiple domains and industries, which includes semiconductors, software and industrial automation, smart cities, mining, textile, metals, pharmaceuticals, and oil and gas. She's currently the Vice President of Product and Innovation in Trinity Mobility. It's my pleasure to have you as the speaker tonight, Mithila. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Pallavi. Thank you for introducing me to the cohort. And I look forward to our session today.
Yeah, thanks, Mithila, for accepting to be here today. And let's start with what we have in plan for today. So first, I would like to, get to know that you have started your career as a software developer, as many of us do, and then you transitioned into a product management space. So what actually inspired you to pursue a career in product management, and how has your journey evolved so far?
Yeah. So this is back in 2009 when I finished my engineering and I did my master's consecutively in the semiconductor domain. And I joined a semiconductor company called as LSI Technologies as an R&D engineer. So I was working on embedded systems and primarily coding and also, working with clients. So the team that I worked with was called as the System Application Engineering team, which catered to the multiple issues that customers were facing. And then I had to do a lot of schematic reviews and then, write automation scripts to enable them to use certain tools and things like that. And also identifying some core issues within the product. So it was like a high performance team, each having an expertise on a different protocol. And they would work jointly with the product development team. So in this process, I started unearthing a lot of insights from my customers. So I was working with APAC region. And so my customers were giving me a lot of insights as to what they look for in the product, or what could be an additional feature that could be enabled and things like that. And I started having these discussions with the development team. And then my manager back then guided me saying that, hey, these discussions you need to have with somebody called as a product manager. And until then, I was like, I didn't know that there's something called as product management. I always knew that you had people managers, that is managers who are managing people, and project managers who are managing projects. But product management was a completely new term that I was like, encountering upon back then. And I was introduced to one of the product managers where I was like, focused on. And the first question that I asked him was like, hey, what is this role all about? What do you do? So, and then he said that, hey, I basically help to define the strategy, the vision for the product, and identify what are the key requirements from the customer, and also doing some market analysis, and then drive the direction for the product. And I was like, wow, so do you have multiple people reporting to you? He said, no, I manage products, I don't manage people. So it was a very interesting first conversation that I had with him. And I started giving him a lot of insights from the customer issues that I was working on and things like that. So I think it was in the year 2 or 3 of my career back then, when he said that, you know what, you seem to be quite suited for this role, because this role requires you to have that obsession with customers and have that thing to like fulfill customer expectations. So why don't you explore this as an option? So I tried a lot within the company to see if I can get a transition into a product management role. But back then there were no such avenues, and most of the product management team was not based out of India, it was based out of the US. So my manager said, like, yes, I think you're right in your thinking. I guess this is a field that you will really like and you will excel. So you have one option is like you probably continue doing R&D for a couple of years and then maybe slowly transition into a product role. Or the second option is to do an MBA, which could kind of be a channel for you to venture into product management. So since product management does require a little bit of business acumen as well, because you're doing strategic product management, I said, okay, MBA sounds like a good idea. And that's how I did my MBA from ESMT in Berlin, in Germany. And my first job right after MBA was into software product management. So that's how I broke into product management. So I got the insights about what a product manager requires from my first job, and I applied the learnings in my jobs after. So and ever since, I've always been in this field.
So yeah, it was quite an interesting transition that you made. And during this process, in these many years, how have you seen this field evolving? So
yeah,
what are the changes that you have noticed?
Yeah. So initially when I started out, so the product management role was also very technical. So it was a technical product management role, right? So the thought process was such that, we were still looking at the drawbacks or the limitations that technology offered in order to develop a feature or to provide something unique, right? So we were always limited by the technology that we were working on. How I've seen product management evolve, or it has really disrupted in the B2C space. So B2C is one area where product management really explored multiple avenues, because there was a change in business model. We were moving away from one-time license cost to more of a SaaS or a pay-as-you-go kind of a model. And the changes that I have seen is that people are no longer talking about technology, but talking about problem solving or solutions that you need to solve for your end customer, identifying those pain points and seeing how to really tackle those pain points without having to bother about what technology we can use. So, and I've seen this stream then evolve into two parts. So you have the strategic product management, you have the tactical product management, and you have different ways to address different kinds of market. Like B2B product management is very different from B2C, and is also slightly different from B2G, where I'm focused on currently, like in the smart city space or in the safe city space. So the transition that I have seen is product and design started getting fused quite a bit. And people started applying principles of design thinking, more empathy toward customers, taking more and more feedback from your end users in order to evolve products. So this is the shift that I saw from what it was before and what it is now. So the customer obsession has like gone to the next level altogether because of hyper personalization. Everybody wants their product to be customized and personalized for them, right? So everybody wants to feel like it is their product. So that's the change and shift that I have seen.
Yes, that's really very evident in the last few years, the shift we have in the B2C market. While speaking, you mentioned that you noticed that there's a lot of difference between the way product management is handled in B2C and B2B.
Yeah.
To tell out, some examples from your experience that what are the differences you notice?
Yeah. So in case of B2B, what I have seen is like you identified a problem that you're going to solve for a large number of organizations if you're focused on enterprise product management, right? So for example, if you look at a CRM application, okay, so you identify what is the problem that you're going to solve. And the idea is that you will create software replica that can be sold across multiple enterprises with a little bit of customization. So you should have a standard product which is almost 90% standard, and 10% you leave it for customization, which you will customize for the end customer's process and things like that, right? So when you're doing B2B product management, you're still a little limited by the number of inputs that you get from your customers. If you sit in front of your customer and ask them, okay, tell me what is it that you want, you will not get good answers. Okay, so and if you start designing a product that way, you're just going to be going all over the globe and just making circles. So a lot of innovation is required in-house to first actually visualize, put yourself in the customer's shoes, and create a lot of hypotheses early on in order to understand what is it that the customer wants, and then maybe validate that hypothesis with your first 4-5 customers. So you need to already create an MVP in-house based on your hypothesis, and then you go out to the market and you test it with your maybe first 4-5 customers, make iterations on the product and standardize it as much as possible. But in B2C, you have that flexibility in terms of first doing a persona mapping, right? You can understand what is the kind of persona that you're going to target your product towards. You can, even before creating a prototype, you can validate your hypothesis with number of users. So you can actually run a lot of surveys online, offline. You can talk to friends, family. So you'll be getting a lot of inputs early on in the journey itself, right? Before you actually build a better product. And then when you create your prototype, your first prototype, you can again go back to the same people that you spoke to and then, validate your prototype and make iterations. But the only challenge over here is because you're launching your product to maybe a large number of users, right? So supposing something like Uber, for example, it's an app which is going to be used by the young and the old. Correct. So it's something that you have to keep in mind that every age group or every persona should be able to use this application. So when you're actually launching this product, your persona is a little more broad, but at the same time, it's a common problem that you're solving across this various types of personas. So the metrics that you're looking for in B2B and the product metrics that you're looking for in B2C will be very different. In B2C, you'll be looking at more of how many number of people have downloaded the app or how many number of people are using the application, what is the drop-off rate and things like that. But in B2B, it's more of what features are being loved by your users, what features are not being utilized much by your users. How can you refine or automate the processes? How can you reduce the number of clicks and things like that? So here at one place, you need to have product that is loved by one and all. And the other place, you need to have a product which is efficient for the company or the enterprise that is using.
Yeah, you have really very well summarized the difference between the two segments, and but the crux is that whatever be the case, customer is the primary focus, and we should go with the customer first mindset.
Yes.
So next, what I would like to know is how have mentors helped you in your career journey, and what do you recommend people to have mentors, or it just works without them as well?
Yeah. So for me personally, I think I've been very blessed to have good mentors in my career, and also sponsors, right? So there's a difference between having a mentor and a sponsor. So a mentor is somebody who will probably help you in what next steps you need to take in your career, or in what direction you should drive your career in, and then give you advices as to what to do, what to not do, what you're lacking in, and how you can work on some of these areas. But a sponsor is somebody who will back you within the organization, and who's going to be a voice for you, and who will give you that exposure and those opportunities so that you can propel your career. So I've been privileged to have both. In terms of sponsors, like my previous company, before I joined the startup Trinity, I was working with ABB. So ABB is an MNC, and it has like 135,000 employees globally, right? So in order to create a visibility, and I was part of the digital transformation team, and it's not easy to create visibility in such large organizations. So I had a sponsor in my manager who was, his name is Rashid Banerjee, and he was instrumental in helping me to propel whatever I wanted to do as part of my career. So we were creating a small team called as the customer experience team, which works with end customers to understand what are their pain points and then building solutions for them, right? So this was a very new concept. So we were introducing design thinking in customer place, and our customers were like forging customers, mining customers, textile, pharma, right? So we're very used to the standard way of working. But he gave me multiple platforms to talk about what we are trying to do, how we are going to achieve this, and things like that. And he also gave me visibility with the management itself, and that really helped in order to be successful, or even take this concept to idea and transform it completely. And in Trinity, my boss, who is the co-founder of Trinity, his name is Matt. He has been very instrumental in giving those opportunities, whether it's with the customers or with our partners. So sponsors are very important. In terms of mentors, I would say that, it's like everybody is very busy with what they do, right? It's very difficult to mentor someone on a regular basis. What I generally do is I follow a lot of content available online. I follow multiple women leaders, male leaders, and I try to seek some advice from what they share on LinkedIn or other profiles. But apart from that, if I feel I specifically have to connect to someone regarding a particular topic, for example, whether to do an MBA or not do an MBA, it was a decision that I had to make very early on in my career. So I did speak to a couple of people on their views about it, and is this something that I need to do or not do? And also in terms of how and where should I, if I feel that there are some things that I'm struggling with, and I feel that there are leaders who are better at it, I try to reach out to them and see if I can have a session or two with them. So I don't really have a specific or one person mentor, because I feel everybody has their own strengths. So I try to reach out to people who are good at what they are doing, and then see if that answers my query at that point of time. But sponsors, yes, I think it is very important to have sponsors within your organization to fast track your career. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you couldn't have emphasized the importance of having mentors and sponsors in a better way. So how did you plan out, how did you plan your career and your transition from a technical product manager to what you are today? So how did you figure that out? How did you create the vision, the career path? So if you could just share.
Yeah. So from technical product management, I think the natural choice of natural path is to slowly move into strategic product management. So what I realized is like, I loved ideating on multiple products. I loved working with customers, understanding what are the challenges, like, and spend nights over it and see, okay, how do we solve it? Like, should we give them a technology? It should be, or should we fix their process? Like, what is it that we need to do? Correct. So that's when so I started making that choice early on. And like I said, like from my previous company, we started employing, actively using this framework with our customers for problem solving. And that's how it led me into strategic product management. So when I joined the startup, of course, in a startup, you don't really have multiple teams doing multiple things. So I run the strategic, the tactical, the product ownership, the UI UX design. Everything is like, under one umbrella. So it was nice that I could experience the end-to-end, right from visualizing what your product should be and launching it into the market. I think that's the kind of exposure that you get in a startup. So it's like, if somebody really wants to understand the whole gamut of product management, definitely it's great to join a startup, because you'll be wearing multiple hats and you will understand the whole flow from the beginning to the launch. And if you're somebody who's like, who is already experimented, and that this is the field you want to be in, or this is the stream of product management you want to be in, then it's better to choose companies which offer that, and you can stick to that. So that's how my journey has been, Pallavi. It's like, I never really planned it out. It just happened to me, and it came. It was just a natural evolution of what I wanted to do.
Yeah, it's anyways very in visioning to see what how your journey had spanned out. And we see a lot of women who join at the after college. They start as developers and then go a little more in the career, and we see few at the mid-level. But in general, in the industry, we have very few women leaders at senior positions. So what do you think? The number actually keeps on reducing. What do you think are the self-limiting beliefs we as women have, which prevents us from taking leadership roles?
Yeah, this is something which has always intrigued me. It's like, every time I go into a leadership forum, I hardly see women leaders around me. And so many times I myself have been like the only person in the room who's a woman. And when I actually looked up the numbers, I saw that like in the Fortune 500 companies, I think we have only about 40 women leaders, which is pretty, intriguing as to like, why is it so? So yes, like you said, apart from the ecosystem and other challenges that the system itself has, there are a lot of self-limiting beliefs that women have, which kind of prevent them from taking on leadership roles. And what I have observed is like maybe like one of the self-limiting beliefs that people have is not asking for help, especially women. Right. So we feel like, we need to do it all. We want to be the super moms, the super wives, and, we want to do it all by ourselves. And we don't really seem to ask for help. Like even at home, sometimes, I see myself like struggling with a call and then also doing the chores, when I can actually ask my husband to help me out with some of the chores. So it's something that I think it does not come naturally to us, or it's like we feel like we are better off if we do it by ourselves, in trying to strive for that perfection. So that is something that we have to change, because like I said, without mentors or without sponsors, it is quite hard to actually, get visibility in organizations to take on leadership roles as well. Right. And once you take on leadership role, you cannot do everything by yourself. You have to find next generation leaders. You have to delegate stuff. So that is something that I think prevents women. Okay, that's one of the limiting factors. The other limiting factor that I see is, this likability thing that we women have. It's like we want to be nice to everybody. We want everybody to like us. And it's like, even if right from school, we want to be like, the most popular girl in the school who's liked by everyone and things like that. It's not going to help in your career, because sometimes you have to take tough calls, and those tough calls will not really be pretty. It can disappoint a lot of people, right? And to do that, you have to tell yourself, look, you don't have to be liked by everyone, but you will be respected. Even if there's somebody who doesn't like you, they will respect you if you are able to stand up for what is right, if you're able to say no, and deliver what is really important versus what is always urgent. Correct. So this is something that we have to get it out of our head, like, oh, this person doesn't like me, he or she seems to be talking behind my back and stuff like that. This whole thing, we need to get out of it. Leadership is sometimes very lonely, and you have to get used to the fact that you will be hated by a lot of people. And another thing that I feel, kind of limits women, I think this is one of the biggest factors, because I've seen also in the appraisals that I do with my male colleagues and female colleagues, is women tend to underestimate themselves a lot, right? So they have these imposter syndrome where they feel that they're not ready for the promotion. Or like, even if you ask, they'll be so self-critical about themselves. So every year I have observed this in my appraisals. The women in my team always rate themselves really low. And the male, they rate themselves like super high. Okay. So I think that's, I've consistently observed this pattern, and I thought, okay, maybe it could be a one-off thing, but I have 3, 4, 5 years of data with me to prove this point. So I think so. I've asked the women in my team as well, like why do you feel that? And even when I'm promoting someone, they ask me, Mithila, do you think I can do it? Do you think I have it in me? And I tell them that, what, nobody's ever ready-made for anything. You have to learn new skills. You have to acquire new skills. It's not going to come to you unless and until you take that leap of faith, right? So sometimes you're not always ready for the role, right? But why are we not the people in the room to raise our hands to say that, yes, I can do it? We have that imposter syndrome, or we fear that we're going to fail and we don't want to be a failure. So this is one of the biggest factors that I have seen which prevents women from taking on leadership positions. Yes, there are a lot of other things in place, systems, unfriendly ecosystems, and all of that, which which also add to it. Like, I know we need to create an environment where women are able to balance work, home, everything. But apart from that, I think first you have to tell yourself you're ready for it, and then rest of it will just happen.
Thanks for that honest answer. And I think it would have resonated with many of our listeners today. So moving on to the next question, which I have for you is, your hobbies. So when we were talking earlier, you mentioned that you love dancing and trekking. And so was just wondering, how have these hobbies helped you in your role as a product leader? Have they been any guiding factor for that?
Oh yeah, totally. I've been dancing since the age 6. So I was a trained Bharatanatyam dancer, but I've also I've self-taught myself other styles of dancing. I even do salsa and things like that. And one of the things that I would do right from school and college is to do a lot of choreographies. I also started a dance ensemble of my own, and before COVID, we would give quite a few performances every year and things like that. So getting together a couple of creative people, right? Like like if I'm choreographing for a cohort of 10 or 15 or 30, and each of them are like, they are all good dancers, right? And you know how artist ego works, right? So everybody is like, oh, I'm the best out here. And getting all of them to actually work together and delivering something is a huge challenge in itself. And that is where I think I started honing my leadership skills in terms of how to work with high performance teams. What will you do if everybody in your team is a rock star? How do you manage their egos? How do you balance it out? How do you make them look at the bigger picture, to make them look at company vision before their own personal interest, right? So I think this is what helped me quite a bit, and I've used some of those techniques and tactics that I used back then in my leadership journey as well. Another thing that yes, like I said, I love trekking. I've done a couple of treks, and I think in trekking, what I realized is like, it's not about how fast you go and you reach your goal, right? It's about how far you can sustain, because it requires stamina. There's a lot of, it's not just about whether your body is cut out for it or whether you are physically strong. There's a lot of mental strength that goes into it, because it's always that last mile which is going to be super tough, and you have to have that will to get through it, right? And so many times I've observed that it's that trekking group with you that decides whether you'll actually complete your trek or not. Sometimes you see people like, in other groups who are just giving up, like they're saying, no, we cannot do it. And then it kind of trickles down to everybody in the group and they're like, okay, we cannot do it. But then there are some groups which kind of motivate each other and they push each other to say, hey, let's do it, let's go slow, or let's take a break and let's pause, but let's try to complete it. So a lot of team management, or team building kind of activities is what I learned and what inspired me from trekking. Also, the pace is decided by the slowest trekker, right? Like whoever is the slowest trekker is what decides the pace. So that's something that I also understood, like in your team, right? The performance of your team will be decided by not the one who is actually getting it all right and done on time, because you are again in product management, you're not the only person who's working, you're working with multiple teams. You define the features, and then the features are taken by the development team. You have to influence them. You're not really you have to influence without authority, right? So everybody has to kind of buy into your vision and actually deliver that product, right? So everybody in the ecosystem has to support in order to deliver the product. This is also something that I realized, like if there's one team which is actually they've not bought into your vision, and they don't see what you're building and why are you building, and they feel that your features that you have defined is useless, and they're not even ready to go ahead with it, your whole product is kind of going to collapse, or it's just not going to happen. The release is not going to happen, right? So helping everyone in the value chain see your end goal, or see what is the objective that you're trying to deliver, right from the developer to your QA. Everybody needs to know what is the objective, what is the vision, what are we going to achieve by developing this. That is what will help you deliver a very successful product. And it's the same thing, when I have seen with trekking as well. Like everybody has to have a purpose as to why they're doing this trek. If the trek is just about just walking around, then they may not even do it. But if the trek is about reflecting upon themselves and then trying to really challenge themselves and see how far they can go, then I think they are also successful in completing the trek. So yeah, there are a lot of such lessons which I take away from my personal interests, and I try to apply them at work and see how it works.
Yeah, that's a very different take on hobbies, and that the whole fact that we can learn a lot from our hobbies and take it into our professional life is something is a very good food for thought. And before we open the forum for questions from the audience, one last question for you. So if you get a chance to be a product in real life, which product would you like to be and why?
Oh, that's that's a nice question. Okay, let me think about it. A product, okay. Yeah, so if so, maybe I'll answer this question in two ways. So one will be a software product, and one will be like a physical product, like a phygital product, I can say. So if I had to be a product, I think I would have been a Mercedes Maybach, because I love being outdoors. So that way I can get to cruise outdoors quite a bit. And more than anything, I think I love Mercedes as a brand. And their design ethics is just awesome. Like, they have been dictating design ethics within the industry and also other industries since time immemorial. So this is something which I feel like that's why I think I would like to be this product. Great infotainment system, and of course not really known for its speed, but that's the design and everything else, right? Like, is top notch. If I have to be a software product, then I think I'll be Etsy. So the reason being, I love creative arts, both visual as well as other creative arts. And I feel Etsy gave a platform for a lot of homegrown artists to be able to, showcase and sell their artifacts. So this is one product, and its journey in the last 17 years has been amazing. Like, how it started off to where it is today is a very inspirational journey. So in between, they were like in troubled waters, and how they kind of came out of it is quite amazing. So I think being resilient is one quality that every product manager should have, right? Because you're working with so many different teams, and everybody is going to tell you that you're doing a bad job. So yeah, I think Etsy has really been that product for me. I follow them quite closely, and I like the way that they have given platform for artists. And yeah, so that's my answer for you, Pallavi.
That was quite an interesting choice of products. So it, now I didn't realize how the 50 minutes went past, and it's already time to open the questions for the audience. So, Kashish, if you have any questions which you have received, we can go ahead with those.
Yep. So I can see a couple of questions in the Q&A window. I'm going to go ahead and pick. We have about 9-10 questions. So I'm going to pick one of them for now. So this one is from Vishrut Kumar Mistry. This question is, will product thinking change from place to place, like from India to US to EMEA, etc.?
Oh, yes, definitely. The product thinking definitely is dictated quite a lot by geography. So this is a mistake actually, which I did early on in one of the products that I was working on, because I had not really paid attention to the demographics and how cultural differences will affect how you look at your product, right? So to give an example, if you look at the Middle East customers, right? So if you're designing an app for Middle East, they, more than user experience, they are looking at UI elements, because they are very used to things which are very grand and beautiful and good looking, right? So more than functionality, they want something which is like very good looking or very visually appealing. So you'll have to probably tweak your aesthetics, your UI design accordingly for Middle East customers. Of course, internationalization and localization is anyway a given, right? And also, but if you look at say European customers are, if you see the demographics as well, you have a lot of older population there in comparison to India or Africa, where you have more a younger population. So the design elements or the design language is again going to change in terms of how you address the European population. If you're doing a B2C product, you have to make it very, very simple for them to be able to use your product. So when you are designing for different geographies, and if your value proposition is going to be the same, I would definitely suggest to do a little more deep dive into the demographies and understand how to tweak your product in order to suit that particular geography. So I hope that answers the question.
Thank you so much. Moving on to the next one. Pallavi, you'd also, if you'd like to add on to any of the questions, feel free to do so. This next question is from Swaraj Mitra. As a developer, you might have to follow tight deadlines to deliver the product features, facing challenges due to time constraint and innovation coming from product managers. So now as a product manager, how do you see the same situation? And what will be the piece of advice that you would give to those developers and software engineers and PMs who are in the same situation as this?
Yeah, so that's a nice question, actually. So one thing that I have seen which makes a successful product is where there is a lot of communication between the product manager and the product engineering lead. Okay, so when you are doing, you have to spend a lot of time in doing your if you say the user story walkthrough, or even understanding what the feature is all about and breaking it down. So there should be sufficient amount of planning before you actually jump into development, right? So when you spend time in understanding the feature, breaking down, knowing the technology stack on how to deliver it, maybe further break it down into user stories and have better acceptance criteria, and do your PI planning in a way where you're only taking user stories, like, which you can deliver, like be practical and a little more pragmatic about how you're going to deliver. Then I think you will be able to like meet your deadlines and even deliver the required feature on time. So prioritization is very important. So what I generally do with my product managers is we use a couple of techniques for feature prioritization, because sometimes they get too excited about the features that they want to see in their product, and I ask them, like, is this a good to have feature or is it a must have feature, right? So there are different techniques, like you can either use Kano's model or you can use Moscow in order to prioritize what features you would like to take first, right? And then do a lot of planning with the engineering team and understanding how to deliver it, and then do a very detailed PI and sprint planning so that your risks are identified and you're able to deliver it on time. So the only piece of advice that I'd like to give is work together as a team. Don't do finger pointing like, hey, this product manager has decided this feature, this engineer is not delivering, right? So work together as a team, and I think you'll be able to launch a successful product.
Pallavi, anything you'd like to add on that before we move to the next question?
No, I think she has really summed the gist in it, and something which we should always be watching for is to work together as a team. So that's the most important thing.
Wonderful. All right. So here's a question from an anonymous attendee, but I think two other people have the same question. So I'm going to go ahead and take that one. Can you talk a little bit more about what B2G is?
Okay. So B2G is business to government. Okay. So here in this case, the government is your customer. So for example, I work on a lot of initiatives. So we basically build software for smart cities. So the software has like a IoT digital platform, which basically connects the sensors. And then, you have a command center, which actually monitors for different anomalies and things like that. So I don't want to delve into the details, but the whole idea is that you're building something for the government, right? So in B2G, the whole process is very different. So you basically, the government will draft, along with the consultant, will draft an RFP, that is request for proposal. And then different companies who want to bid for it will actually understand the specifications and see whether they can deliver it. They will give the compliance, and then there is a whole tender process and things like that, right? So when you're building products for B2G, you have very limited information with you in the beginning to start with. So when the 100 Smart Cities was launched, this was back in 2015. There was a very rough RFP back then. So companies like ours, we had to kind of put ourselves in the shoes of operators, city operators. What is it that they would want for their citizens, right? Like, what is the kind of living standards that they want for their citizens? So we had to kind of put on those hats to understand what features go into the product. And then eventually, with one or two deployments, we started getting a little more insights on how city operators function, what is it that they are trying to solve, and what are citizens expecting. So the B2G process is a little more different from how you deliver products for B2B or B2C.
All right, let's quickly take maybe two more questions. We have one question from Sandhya, which also is a question by two other people. This is, how do you get your managers to be sponsors? Other than just performance, is there any other factor that the sponsors would look at?
Yeah. So sponsors basically have commitments to give, right? Whether it is with the executive board or with the board of directors. Why would somebody sponsor you is only if they see that your efforts will result in an outcome which is favorable for the business, right? They will not sponsor you if you are a good person or a nice person, or you are very diligently coming to office every day. These are not qualities that a sponsor will look in first, right? I mean, I'm not saying you shouldn't have these qualities. Please don't quote me anywhere. But I'm saying that's not the first set of qualities that they will look at, right? So in order to for your manager to become your sponsor, one is have a heart-to-heart conversation with your manager and ask him or her, what are they trying to solve? What is their biggest challenge, right? What are they trying to solve? Apart from the tasks that are given to you, if you are able to help them in kind of solving some of the challenges that they have on your plate, that's when they kind of, feel that, okay, this is somebody who I can sponsor, right? Second quality that they look for is for you to be a solution finder and not a problem finder, right? A lot of times we only go and complain to our managers. This is not working, that is not happening. Okay, fine. What is the solution for it, right? It's fine that you have identified the problem now, but then are you somebody who can actually also find solutions? So a sponsor is also going to look at if you can find solutions and not only find problems. Another thing that a sponsor will look at if they want to really bet on you is how focused are you on the what is your business orientation. So especially people who are into development and stuff, they kind of struggle with this aspect because they're very focused on developing the product and looking into the internal R&D and things like that. But what about how customers are viewing that product? How are we able to scale the product? Are we able to get revenues? Are we able to tell a story to our sales team so that they can take it further to the customers, right? So they will see if you have a little bit of sense on how the market is, where the market is heading towards, and what you can do in order to be to be the first in the market, or to be a market leader. So if they see that you are able to connect technology with business, they feel that yes, this is somebody who will be able to channel their thoughts into a very rewarding direction. So in my experience, I have always been challenged on these three things. I used to be the person complaining, and that's when my first manager said that, no, my second manager said, I'm not paying for you to come with problems, find solutions. So that's something that I've also learned in my journey. Yeah. I hope that answers your question, Sandhya.
Perfect. Let's go ahead with one question from LinkedIn.
Yes, Kashish. So I think this will be the last question because we are already out of time. So we have one question from Pavitra Deshmukh from LinkedIn. How you manage faster innovation cycles during globalization and sustainability in between the product management?
Okay. So so every time in your company, right? Like, so you'll have certain products which are already mature, and they will be going through your regular R&D cycles, because these are already in the market and they are already generating revenues for you, and probably also profitable. So they will have the regular R&D cycle. But when it comes to innovation, right? Innovation is a space where you're doing still quite a bit of research. You're doing product research, you're doing user research, you're doing competition research and stuff. So you cannot employ the same process that you're using for your regular R&D cycle for an innovation cycle. So innovation cycle, I think, like you said in your question itself, has to be fast. It has to be iterative. You don't have to like sit and do your entire process of writing user stories, putting it on Jira, doing PI planning, sprint planning, all that regular process. If you follow, I think you'll kind of lose out. So you have to try and see what are some of those processes that you can trim, and then try to get your prototype faster, so that you will be able to get that market feedback and that user feedback early on. And then once you build your minimal lovable product, and the sales is also convinced that this is something that they can actually take to the customers, then you put it back into the regular R&D cycle. So every company should have this focus. So the mistake that people generally do is trying to build innovative products also the way that they are doing their regular mature R&D, right? So this is something that I feel has worked in order to be very competitive in the market. And sustainability is now a part of every product that you visualize. So I think that's not something which is going to be outside of your product. So every product that you build, you will look for sustainability. Yeah.
Thank you so much for those wonderful insights, both of you. I mean, the moderation as well. Thank you so much for asking some really incredible questions there. I couldn't just stop listening even for a second. Thank you so much for your time. I know in the view of time constraints, we would have to close the Q&A for now, but for any of those who have more questions, I'm sure the speakers would love to connect with you later on. You can drop them on LinkedIn to Mithila or Pallavi. You can just quickly go ahead and drop a message to us as well at the email IDs. If you have anything else that you would like to discuss, then you can go ahead, schedule a quick call with the IPL team, or reach out to the PLF forum. Go ahead and put your questions there. I'm sure there are many product leaders kind of waiting to give you the answers and the insights that you would need.